We're fortunate to have J.D. Campbell with us. J.D. just returning from Las Vegas, site of the NBA Summer League, where a plethora of players, whether involved with Indiana, the Big Ten, managers, it's just mind-boggling how deep the list we could go off of in just short directions. But and the Summer League itself is such a unique event because there's no other sport that has this compact opportunity, I guess you would call it, for all these guys who are. And you mentioned earlier, they're all desperate. They're looking for a spot on a team. They're trying to knock somebody out or try to secure their own spot. But the guys that, whether they're through Indiana or through guys you've played against that you mentioned, that list is just long.
Well, it was interesting. The first game that I got to go to, we got there about halftime of the San Antonio game, which was completely sold out. You know, a 20,000 seat arena or however many tickets they sold. You know, you're watching and I'm like, oh, that's Malachi Branham there. Oh, that's Bryce McGowan's over there. You know, guys that we went through in every game, you know, watching the Lakers. Max Christie had a big game Friday night, and another guy that I didn't view as an NBA guy, but Cole Swider from Syracuse. I remember we played him. And so I just thought, you know, if you're a fan of college basketball, this is a neat event to go to. You could spend all day, you know, you got two arenas connected. And so you can go over to the Cox Pavilion, which is the home of the women's basketball team there, or you could stay in the Thomas and Mack. And I started going to the Thomas and Mack when I was 20 years old, when it opened, 21 years old. And for me, it's like, it was always packed when I came in here. You know, when UNLV was at its heyday, and now they're averaging about 5,000 a game. But it was actually almost in the same seats I used to sit in when I was a college student, coming home at break. And it was a great atmosphere. I didn't get to watch anything in the Cox Pavilion, but I did get a chance to see, you know, such a laid back environment. Like coaches coming over. You know, I ran into Mike Bray and had a chance to talk to him and congratulate him on a great career and how much we enjoyed, you know, battling each other and talked about some mutual friends. And but I think if you're a basketball junkie, it's something that's worthwhile going to or taking your kids to. And you know, in addition to being in Las Vegas, which has just exploded. Now, here's something for you, Jim. I didn't know what the population was of Las Vegas. And when I grew up there, when I graduated from high school, the population was about 500,000. Okay.
Well over a million now.
It's 2.9 million.
Gee whiz.
And I'm like, wow. Now it felt like 2.4 million were driving their cars around the strip as I was trying to get through things. You know, that was the only, again, I learned to drive actually there because I had a delivery. I was a medical delivery kid, and I would drive to hospitals and doctors' offices. So I learned to drive through the heyday. I had to drive on the strip, and I had to do everything when I was 16 years old. And two things come to mind when I think of Las Vegas. One, they have the widest roads anywhere I've ever been. I mean, like in residential areas, the roads are wide. The second thing, they have the worst stoplights that I've ever experienced. And you try so hard to not get hit at a stoplight, you know, like, oh man, I'm going to be 5 minutes. I can check my mail. I can do everything I can because I'm going to be here 5 minutes. But it was a lot of fun. It's always fun to go home. Saw a lot of people. Really enjoyed getting a chance to watch Jalen play. I thought he was outstanding. I think, you know, he played the first two games in California, then They started on Friday, and I think one of the things that I read is that they really wanted him to focus more on distributing and passing rather than looking for a shot, and he did that in that first game where they beat the Warriors. And then the second game when they played the Hornets, he had a much bigger game. I think he had 15 or 17 points. He did a great job. But he looked he looked like he belonged. That's the thing. That's what you look at in these guys. My strategy take of watching all the teams play, to me, I thought I saw it's like they're not running plays. They're either running a high-low pick and roll or they're drive and kick. And guys get off threes a lot quicker at that professional level, I think, than they do in college. I didn't see any shot fakes. You know how many times we'd see a guy, Miller Kopp comes to mind. Miller, shoot the ball. He does a shot fake and then passes it. In that league, in this environment, those guys are putting the ball up. And I thought that was unique. And then got a chance to talk to Trace after the Golden State Laker game, and he's doing great. And he came up and hugged Jalen. And like I say, man, they're in the business now. I mean, they're hopefully Trace will get a chance to play here either in their next game. I don't know if it's tonight or tomorrow, but I think he's working hard to try and get back to get that. But it was, it was interesting to watch because, the one thing that you never saw from anybody was bad body language. Those guys know that the eyes, I mean, you're looking, the general managers, Mitch Kupchak for the Hornets, I saw, Rob Pelinka for the Lakers, and all these people, big Steph Curry, big name players are out there. And so you're really trying to make an impression. So there's no time for bad body language. It was interesting to see. I think one game before we got there came down to a buzzer beater. But for the most part, guys are getting their minutes in, showing what they can do, fulfilling their role, taking what's given to them. And again, the fans, they were into it. The fans were into it. And both arenas, you struggled to find a seat if you were a fan, especially if San Antonio was involved.
Yeah, and Las Vegas is just a great place. You mentioned Dean Garrett earlier. And I don't know, you may or may not know this. Last year when we were out there for the Indiana game, that's Dean and his father and Race Thompson and Race's father, rather.
Yeah.
Dean and Race's dad were in Minneapolis at the same time, and they did a sports show together.
That's amazing. But, that's the kind of thing that is so common. And that's the great, for me, I think what I enjoyed the most about the experience was spending time and seeing people that had been part of the Indiana program when I was there. Riley Crean, Tom's son, was with the Dallas Mavericks. I didn't get a chance to see him. Like I say, Al Durham reached out to me. I didn't, Al's living out there. He's training out there. And they had a convention called NBA Con. And I believe he was selling some of his merchandise, which unfortunately with the NIL, coming up later after his career, I think he would have had a real good time selling that merchandise when he was in Indiana. But his real is rare brand. So he reached out, and then I saw some pictures of Thomas. I wish I would have been able to see him, but it's constant, man. There are so many people. That is the place to be in the NBA, which is unique in terms of that. For any other sport, nobody else has anything. It's like, could you imagine spring training with all 30 MLB teams and, a league and the number of people there? But, it is that the NBA, everybody ascends onto Las Vegas. And they also talked about, they announced an in-season tournament next year in November, December, where the NBA teams are going to play for the NBA Cup early in the regular season. So, and certainly,
very cool.
and when you look at the population numbers, I don't think there's any question that Las Vegas and Seattle will be the teams that get the most consideration for an expansion franchise coming up here in the next few years.
Well, there's no city even close to doing what Las Vegas has done over the last few years. First of all, they were not allowed by the professional leagues, by NCAA. Nobody wanted a part of Las Vegas because of being afraid of gambling and all that. And now that's out the window with all the apps and sponsorships. And Las Vegas has, you just mentioned, that they have exploded. They were already exploding just from a population. I remember I used to work in the media department for the National Finals Rodeo every year, which has been in Las Vegas since 1985, and it exploded. The NFR exploded from that point forward. It used to just be this old country boy kind of rodeo thing in Oklahoma City. No, not anymore, man. That thing goes to Vegas, and it is big time. And of course, during that period in Las Vegas, all you see are cowboy hats. But it is a huge event as well. And Las Vegas is just everything that they get, they turn into gold.
Well, it's interesting because I can tell you about that time when the National Finals Rodeo came. That was in my college days. And we found it funny, those of us who lived there, because on the Strip, you're used to having certain people play the Strip. You have a Sinatra, Dean Martin, and all these guys, and the usual Vegas types. And then when the National Finals Rodeo came, they were gone, and every country music star in America, somebody took over Caesar's Palace, somebody took over the Desert Inn, somebody took over the Riviera, the Trop, all these different things. And it is an economic boom. I mean, December was always a dead month for Las Vegas. It was like the one month that people are like, oh, it's going to be slow and this and that. And with the NFR, it completely changed. My experience, growing up there was from maybe December 10th through Christmas Day, it was dead. And then what I remember more than anything was Christmas night, you started to see an influx of fans. And usually they were fans of the Big Ten team playing in the Rose Bowl. So I get there, Christmas night or day after, heading up to New Year's, because New Year's is huge there. A lot of Iowa fans. I remember seeing a lot of Hawkeye fans coming to Las Vegas on their way to Pasadena, and that was something. But to your point about the NBA, back when I was in college, the Utah Jazz actually played 8 games a year, 20% of their home schedule, because Utah at the time was not, successful. They had just drafted John Stockton, and they hadn't drafted Malone yet. But a lot of people don't know that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar actually set the NBA scoring record all time in the Thomas and Mack Arena when the Lakers were hosting the Jazz back then. So I got to see, I think I went and saw Houston and the Jazz play one time. But, the NBA has had a flirtatious event. This is the 18th year of the Summer League, and it's just, you could, I mean, I'm just telling you, it's incredible to see what happens in that town. And on top of that, this past weekend, there was a big UFC fight. I don't follow UFC. I don't know anything about it. I just know that everywhere you moved, it's just people everywhere. And they do events now. They have I think 5 or 6 arenas that they can hold events in. And I know during college basketball, especially the conference tournaments, they host like the Pac-12, the WAC, the West Coast, the Mountain West, the Big West. I mean, to have that many facilities, that's They've done it right, and now they've got the best WNBA team in the Aces, the defending world champions. They've got the Golden Knights, which is absolutely ridiculously taking over that city. And now the university is hoping to rebound and get momentum back after years and years of, deterioration of their fan base. When there were 500,000 people living in Las Vegas, they sold out 20,000 tickets every night at UNLV. It was the toughest ticket to get. Now, hopefully, both in football, playing in Allegiant Stadium, and in basketball, they're hoping to rebound and get their fans.